So today is the day I'm going to speak to a psychiatrist for of two exams that I need to get done in order to have them submit my case to the committee again at UC Davis to see if they can make me active on the transplant list.
Been referred to see me because of some depression I went through like 5 years ago.
No, actually, I was, this psychiatry meeting I'm having right now is a part of, me getting evaluated for kidney transplant.
Yes. Everyone I see here is for kidney transplant.
Okay.
But I think the reason they wanted us to talk was because of depression.
I didn't know that was, what they had me come in here for. I thought this was just like a routine part of the...
Okay, so the routine part was when you met with the social worker.
Okay, yeah, so, I did do that. That I remember.
So everyone who comes in sees the medical side and then sees a social worker. Mm-hmm. And so the social worker will ask you like a million different things about your mental health history, substance use, where you live, who takes care of stuff with you. Mm-hmm. And if they identify a history of any like suicidal thoughts or depression or bipolar, then they send to me to like kind of assess the details.
Because I did mention that to the social worker now that you're bringing it up. I did mention something about that before, like the suicide stuff. It's not anything that I would do now.
Yeah.
But at the time, this was before I got sick, because I initially got sick with an autoimmune disease called HLH.
Okay.
This was 3 years ago. And then that transitioned like immediately, like in the whole 3 years, I went from the HLH, they had to take care of that with chemo, and then from there, and all the drugs they had to put me on, steroids and stuff like that, to immediately into kidney disease. Like it happened just like one after another. So I literally had no time to even recuperate or even get mentally prepared. It was just like, you're sick with this. Now you have this illness. And like the HLH, there's no real cure for HLH. So I just have it. And it's in remission, but I just have it. And with the kidney disease, well, I just have it. So
you're only 36. Okay. Yeah. It's an awful lot.
Yeah. But speaking on the suicide, I did make an attempt, but I sort of talked myself off the ledge. I sort of talked myself out of it because I didn't want my mom to see me like that. Like I didn't want to see. I didn't want her to see, her son just like brains all over the place, and in some park somewhere in Vallejo. So I talked myself out of it.
So you were like sitting there with a gun. You were pretty close.
Yeah. I was.
Had you written a note?
No, I didn't. I just, went to work one day and then just decided not to go. And then I just parked in this parking lot in this park out in Vallejo. They damn fully park out in Vallejo. And, it was at a time where, looking back on it in retrospect, it wasn't nearly as bad then as it was now. That was the one time that I did actually make an attempt, but that didn't have anything to do with this.
So what was it? So you said you stopped yourself because you imagined your mom finding you, or...
Yeah. I figured if I'm going to, and realistically speaking, like the kidney disease is probably ultimately what's going to be what kills me, right? Because kidneys don't last forever. The kidney disease is probably how I'm gonna, end up. But
did you have kidney disease even when you were going through that suicidal spell?
No, I was fine then. Like I was
You were
just,
medically healthy then,
yeah.
but emotionally there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think I contribute a lot of that to decisions that I made as far as like not really doing my due diligence to protect myself emotionally from things. So a lot of that was on me to not set boundaries and things for like toxic people. A lot of that was on me. So none of that had anything to do, with what I'm going through now. Like, if anything, what I'm going through now is significantly much more difficult than what I went through then.
So did you get help back then? Any psychiatric or counseling or anything back then?
Not for a long time, but then eventually it just got to a point where I was like, I can't do this by myself anymore. So I gotta try to see if I can find somebody I can talk to. And it was a long time before I saw a therapist because I just couldn't pay for it. And then when I got sick with HLH, I became like permanently disabled. So then my insurance covered my therapy, and I've been speaking to a therapist for like 2 years now.
Okay. And how is that?
It's going well. I've been speaking to him for a long time. He's a great outlet to vent my frustrations. Sometimes I feel like I'm whiny. I try not to do that, but it's a great outlet for me to vent my frustrations because it's just like it's been a lot. Like I went through like 9 months of chemo, and like I was in the hospital for 30 days, like a month, with the HLH, and they had to start me on emergency chemo with that. Like as soon as they identified, so when I first initially got diagnosed, I didn't know what it was. And then once I identified it, then they had to put me on like emergency chemo, steroids, and all the other chemo drugs. And I think they put me on like immunosuppressants too. So it was just that, like right away. And then, I stopped for a little while. The chemo stopped for a little while, but then they told me that I had to do it again. So then I had to go back and chemo again. And it's not just like, it wasn't just like, oh, you're going to be, doing chemo for like 6 weeks. No, it was like months and months and months of me doing this. So, I was pretty much a fixture at the cancer center in Vacaville. And then once all that was over, they told me I had kidney disease. They told me that my kidneys were failing and that I had to start making a decision of what I wanted to do. Did I want to go into hospice or did I want to do dialysis? And for a long time, I considered going to hospice because it's just like I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to go through this. Again, like I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what dialysis was. I didn't know what kidney disease was. And before I really had a chance to make a decision with I needed emergency dialysis. So I kept going to the hospital like over and over again for like weeks at a time because of uremia. Toxins build up, I get sick, I get a fever, I go back to the hospital. Then once I go back into the hospital, I'm there for like a week. I get out for a week, then I go back for a week. And that's how it was. And then they're just like, well, we got
Did you have a catheter here first?
Actually, I had both. I had when they first. No. Okay, this is how it happened. So they gave me the catheter, like it was an emergency catheter. They put it in. Then it worked for a little while. Then it stopped working, and then they took that one out. They put another one in, and then that one stopped working for the same reason. So what they did was they put a graft in, like as you can see, they put a graft in, and then while that was healing, they put an AV catheter in. So they dialyzed me that way. Yeah. And then once this healed, then they took that out. And then,
so it was like you were going to make a decision, but then you didn't have time to think about it.
Yeah, I didn't really have time to think about it. It kind of felt like it was like, you got to make this choice and you got to make it right now.
Yeah, well, I mean.
And it's like, oh wait, you don't get a chance to choose. So it's either like, what are you going to do? You know, I'm like, what? I didn't even have time to think. Like I had no time to think. You know, and then they put me on the PD catheter, which is initially what I didn't want to do, but because of the length of time it was going to take for this to heal, they had to do something to dialyze me. So their only course of action was the PD catheter. I remember getting the PD catheter, and it just made me so sad. Just the best way I can describe this is grief. You know, that's the best way I can describe this. And when like I saw the tube, you know, sticking out of my stomach, I can't even describe to you like how sad I was. You know, there would be times I just sit on the edge of my bed and just cry because it's like it was over. You know, my life was over. Like everything that I had that allowed me to, that was a part of my identity, was gone.
Like what?
Yeah. Like everything, my ability to do things. I'm not the most active guy. Like you ain't gonna see me running no triathlons or anything like that. But I was a relatively active guy. You know, I do martial arts, and it's a huge part of my life. And with the PD catheter, like I couldn't do that because I couldn't, you know, the twisting. Because there's a lot of twisting involved with the like striking and kicking and stuff like that, and I couldn't do that with the PD catheter because it could tear or it could get caught on something, and I'm going into a place and I had to make sure that it was secure. I had to have a PD belt at risk of infection. Now I'm training more regularly, but it's not to the extent as I was before. So I'm only going there like once a week. I dialyze throughout the week, so 3 times a week for 4 hours a day, and then afterwards I just don't have the energy to really. I usually feel fine by the next day, but most of the time it's just like, and I'm on blood pressure meds, and like they affect how I feel. So it's like if I go train, then I can't take the meds, but I have to take the meds in order to keep the blood pressure down. So it's like, I'm like handicapped of like, well, it feels like I can do stuff, but I can't do stuff the way I want to, and it feels like, well, I can't do anything, like I got to dialyze, then I'll have to wait until I recover, then I'm taking the pills, and then the pills will make me feel bad. So, but I'm going training, and I'm doing what I can to just try to do something and stay active, like I don't want to, and this is no insult to anybody else in the clinic, but like, I don't want to not care about this. Like this is really important to me. Like this kidney transplant is really important to me. It's not just a thing where it's just like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to go eat the pizza. Like, no, I need this. And I don't really think that people understand how badly I need this. Like this has to work. Like I can't just be doing this like on dialysis. I can't just be in this place forever. And I don't have like an unrealistic view of this. Like I understand that like the kidney's not going to fix everything. I understand that. But if it can just eliminate the need to go to dialysis, and it can just give me more freedom, and it can just make me feel better, that's what I'm really looking forward to. So I understand that I'm going to be on immunosuppressants for like the rest of my life. I understand that. And I understand there's going to be challenges with that because I've been on immunosuppressants before and steroids, and I know, I have a general idea what's going to come along with that. So, like, I just want to not have to do the dialysis, and like just not feel bad anymore.
Mm-hmm. So you started out saying that you don't want people to think you don't take it seriously.
Right.
Why would someone think that?
Because you have so I don't want to make it, like I said before, like I don't want to make it seem like I'm just like bad-mouthing other patients or anything like that, but in the medical field, and I'm sure you understand this, you have some people who are pretty nonchalant about their health, and it's like, well, I'm gonna die anyway, so I'm just gonna eat the pizza, or I'm just gonna drink the alcohol or stuff like that. And with the social workers, the workers there, the doctors and nephrologists, and the social workers mainly, It's like if they don't understand that I take it seriously, then they're not going to take it seriously. Of like, oh, well, he just doesn't care. So we're not going to do our due diligence to be an advocate for him. You know, and I'm not saying that that's not what they're. I'm not saying that that's what they think, but like that's not the impression I want to give them. And like I really do try, but not just for their opinions, but for myself too. Like I would like to feel better, and I don't want to really do anything to try to make myself feel bad if I can help it. You know, like I don't want to eat all the burgers for the whole week. You know, and drink all the milkshakes for the whole week. Like I would like to feel better if it's within my power to.
How long have you been on dialysis?
A year and like some months.
Okay.
So it hasn't really been that long.
Do you think about quitting?
No, I don't think about quitting. Sometimes I do think about taking some off days. But if I just like, it's like I'm just gonna call in, but it's not a job. You know what I mean? I treat it like a job because it's something that I have to do.
Do you ever call in?
No.
You just think about it.
I think about it sometimes. Like when I wake up and I'm tired, you know, or I just don't, or I'm just not feeling it, or I'm just like, I know exactly how I'm gonna feel afterwards, but no, I don't. I always make sure that I always show up every day. Like every day. There hasn't been a time in an entire year, there hasn't been one time that I've missed going to dialysis, even when I had the PD catheter. Like, and when the PD catheter was just messing up, like they still dialyzed me, even when it wasn't working.
So you decided, balancing all the pros and cons, that this is something you definitely want. You definitely want to transplant.
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Okay.
do. Like, I don't
What do
want
you
to
see as the con? Like, why would you not bother?
If there was something, the only time that I don't really view it as, like, I don't really view kidney transplant as a con. It would be more so, like, if something happened and I was just ineligible to have a kidney. You know, like, if something happened, or if I got into an accident, or something terrible happened, or they're just like, oh, well, you have a condition now and we can't give you a transplant. It would be the only time I would ever, like, consider that a con.
Okay.
But and I do research, like I do a lot of research. So I don't like to stay ignorant to things, especially things that involve me, like, directly.
Yeah.
So from all the stories I've heard about people who have gotten kidney transplant, they say that it increases their quality of life significantly. But there's always a flip side to that I noticed that, like, they don't really address, and that it's the immunosuppressants you have to take.
Yeah.
And which is a big one for me. Like I need to know, you know, like I like to know about that stuff. And you know, kidneys don't last forever.
Right.
You know, I've noticed that those are like one of the few things that people don't really, you know, they don't really address when they're talking about.
Do you know about how long it lasts?
It depends. From what I've read, I've talked to one guy his kidney lasted for like 20 years, I think he said it was. I think it's like 10 to 20, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, I think. 10, 15, something like that. But I think doesn't it also depend on like how you treat the kidney too? Like, so I don't drink alcohol. I've never drank alcohol. I don't do drugs. So that's not something I have to be concerned about, you know? And I'm very compliant to what they ask me to do. Like, I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, you know, if you have the access to it, you can pull up my record from the clinic, you know, and look at my levels, potassium, phosphorus, all that stuff. I know the phosphorus is a big one for kidney patients.
So you don't have diabetes?
I do.
You do?
I do have diabetes, but since I started doing dialysis, my blood sugars have been normal. That's another concern I have too. I guess you could say that's a con too, of like I'm afraid that if I do get the kidney, then the diabetes is going to come back, and then diabetes is going to come back, and then it's just going to cause me all sorts of problems.
Well, it is. I mean, it is going to come back. But it's totally treatable.
And I kind of was just like I was struggling. Before I got sick, like I was diabetic, and I was struggling then, but I didn't have insurance then, you know, to get the medications. And I tried, you know, I switched from insulin to the oral pills, And it's like I was taking like 5 pills a day just to keep the blood sugar down. It just wouldn't go down. And I don't know. That's one thing I am concerned about is the diabetes, because like I don't want to just go back to that.
How old were you when you were diagnosed with diabetes?
18.
Were you overweight?
No, not really. I was 265.
265?
Mm-hmm.
How tall are you?
5'11".
That's probably considered overweight back then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you need insulin immediately, or were you able to take oral medicine?
It was insulin immediately at first, and then after further evaluation, they switched me to the oral medications.
They decided it was type 2 later on?
Yeah, it was type 2 initially. And then from there, I just didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
So I couldn't pay for anything. So I was like paying out of pocket for these oral pills, and it wasn't really working.
So, if your weight is, what is your weight now?
I think 219.
So if you maintain your lower weight, you exercise and you eat the right medicine, eat the right food,
Mm-hmm.
your diabetes may not be as bad as it was before. What happens though is when you're in kidney failure, the insulin that's already in your body just sticks around.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get a kidney that works, the kidney starts clearing out the insulin.
So it's like your body's just using the residual insulin that's already there on a regular basis.
Yeah, so pretty much like many people who have diabetes their whole lives, once they go into end kidney failure and are on dialysis, their sugars look great during that time that they're on dialysis. And after they get their transplant, they need to start watching it again.
That's what I was kind of concerned about. And I was hoping that, I keep the run going.
Well, it's, if you've lost that much weight.
That's only due to, it wasn't from anything that I did. It wasn't any exercising. Like, I just recently started exercising again because there was a 2-year period where I was just too sick to. And I started, like, training and doing martial arts when I was 27. So, 7 years worth of training just in 30 days was just gone. And then I was just sick over and over again, and it just completely, any sort of physical fitness that I had was just gone. And I didn't lose the weight because of anything I was trying to do. I just lost the weight because, that's the natural progression of going to dialysis and being sick all the time and not eating, and it's just because of that, So I can't really take any credit for that.
Well, I guess I'm trying to sort of pull back a little.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you 100% your sugars are going to go up and you're going to need meds again. It's possible that it, with the right combo,
Mm-hmm.
it won't be like it was. But that is definitely one of the cons. I would say that people should think about. Like, you've nailed all of them. Like the kidneys, even a good kidney transplant. Like, they can last 20 years if it's a good one,
Mm-hmm.
and you take good care of it. But sometimes they last 8 years, and then you have to make those choices again, like another transplant or back on dialysis. So those are the cons.
And after my research, I that's what I sort of discovered. It's just, you talk to people who are like uneducated or like, uninitiated, and, they think, oh, well, you can beat this thing. And I try to explain to them, usually to no avail, that like it's not something that I can't beat it. It's not something I can beat.
That's very annoying.
It is.
Extremely
It's
annoying.
not like, it's not like my mom's a breast cancer survivor. She had stage 3 breast cancer 20 years ago. And like with cancer, that's something that you can beat and go into remission. Like, you can beat that because there's treatments for it. But there's certain diseases like, kidney disease, cirrhosis of the liver, like liver disease, heart disease, unless you get a heart transplant. But like, there's certain diseases like ALS or what's that? Not Crohn's disease. I forget what it's called, that you can't, like Lyme disease, for example, like you can't beat it. Like once you have it, you just have it, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know, kidney disease is very similar, the same thing. It's just like the only thing I can do is get another kidney, but that still doesn't fix the problem. It's just, it's kind of like a band-aid. It's like kind of putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. You know, like it stopped the bleeding kind of, but not entirely. You know, and I understand that.
So can you I want to understand more about how you ended up in such a bad place even before the illness. And so I just want to go back and just think about, you know, like where did you grow up and what were things like for you growing up?
Well, I think that I mentioned this to the social worker too. Like, I grew up in an abusive home, but like the abuse on me was more mental and emotional, but the real abuse was on my mother, both physical, mental, emotional.
From your dad?
Yeah. From him, and you know, so like I have a great mom. Like she's the one that's like helping me. And you know, she's a very sophisticated person. She's not like the stereotypical, like, this is just you and me in here. Like, she's not the stereotypical like mad fat black woman. She's not like that. Like, she's very much kind of like me. Like how I'm talking to you right now. Like, she's very much like that. Very, very chill. You know, takes afternoon naps. Watches Lifetime Movie Network. She does all that. She's very much like that. But you know, grew up in an abusive home with that sort of stuff, and that sort of.
Are you the only kid?
I know it's me and my sister, but she is significantly much older. My sister is almost 50.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm 36. She's almost 50. So we have a significant generational gap between us. So we didn't really have a lot in common. We didn't really hang out.
So you grew up in a place where you didn't feel very safe.
Not most of it. I never really, because like I wasn't admittedly, like I wasn't a very smart kid. I didn't really get like intelligent until like years later, like into my 30s, you know. But like at the time, you know, as a kid, I just wanted to play with toys and watch cartoons, you know. So the feeling of safety and the feeling of danger wasn't really a thing for me. You know, I can't speak for anybody else around me, like my sister. You know, my mom obviously felt that, but she was an adult. I can't really feel that way. I can't really speak for my sister, but for me, there was never any feeling of like, you know, my father, who's an adult, is going to do something to me. You know, but he would like say hurtful things, and you know, he would like, you know, he would say comments about my intellect and or lack thereof. You know, just like
a drinker.
Yeah, he drank. He drank, but he was like he's kind of like a functional alcoholic. You know how you have some alcoholics who can drink a lot, but yet still can maintain like this persona on the outside that they have everything together. He was very much like that. He worked at the Silverado Country Club in Napa, and he was like an alcoholic the whole time. But he could come home, get like super drunk, and then wake up the next morning and then go to work, and it never affected his job. It was insane how like his resiliency for being an alcoholic was. But then there was also drug use as well. Like this is what I told him. Yeah, I just feel okay. There was also drug use too. A lot of marijuana smoking before I was born. You know, when my mom met him, she met him when she was young. She was a teenager. He experimented with other drugs, not anything hard like meth, but like cocaine.
So let me jump to you.
Mm-hmm.
How has this affected your ability to have relationships as an adult?
Not really. I find that a lot of my I don't how can I put this? I don't express my trauma outwardly. A lot of my trauma is really internal.
Do you cut?
No.
Have you ever done any self-injury, like burning yourself, hitting your head?
No, I'm too soft for that. Like I'm like I don't like feeling pain, so like I can't cut, I can't do that stuff. I can't like throw myself down a set of steps. Like no. Because if my thing is if I break something, then it might stay broken, and now I have another problem, and I can't have that.
So you're very self-critical, but not physically harmful to yourself?
I was at one point. I'm actually, and it started almost 3 years ago. When I was like 33 or 32. I figured that something needed to change.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't keep, like I was already on the bottom, so I couldn't go down any further. So I figured, okay, I got to try something different. Like I can't just keep hating myself. Like I got to do something different. Like there's got to be something I can do to make myself feel better about me. So I can't keep hating myself. So the first thing I did was I sort of got rid of all of my toxic friends. That was the first thing. So that was like the first step. So once I got rid of all the like excess noise around me, I just started to look within. Okay, like Carl Porter, who is he outside of everybody else? And then from there, I just started building from there. Like, okay, what do I like about myself? What good qualities do I have? I've been really experimenting with self-affirmation and, not playing up things that don't exist with me, right? Like if I were to say, well, I'm the most handsome guy in the world, like that doesn't work because it's not realistic, because I'm not, that's not true. But if I were to say like I'm a considerate guy, I'm nice, I'm articulate, that's stuff that I know to be true. That's real stuff. So I can play that up even in moments of adversity. And I've had a lot of it. And like when I initially got sick, it completely shattered my confidence because like my body started to change and I felt sick all the time and I thought that it was over, that I would never, and a part of me still feels like it's unfair. This like I'm in my physical prime, of all the, like as far as like my ability to get strong, and to maintain that strength. Like I'm in my physical prime and I feel like it's just wasting away, waiting on the kidney disease and waiting on this person to clear me and this person to clear me and that person to clear me.
Have you ever been in a psychiatric hospital?
No.
Or gone to the emergency room when you were in a mental health crisis?
No. I've never needed that.
Have you ever heard voices?
No voices.
Any signs of bipolar disorder? So periods of increased energy, don't need to sleep very much, very creative, impulsive, meaning spending, having sexual partners you wouldn't normally have, periods like that?
No.
Okay. And you said you don't drink or use drugs. Did you ever do any of that stuff?
No. It's just something I just never wanted to do. Like I like to stay sharp, especially with martial arts. That's what that taught me. It was like you can't do anything if my senses are all messed up.
Can you say a little bit more about the toxic people in your life?
I would. Okay, because you're familiar with Vacaville, right?
A little bit.
Okay, a little bit. So, just speaking openly with you, like Vacaville's really a predominantly like white area, and most of the time because of how I speak and how I am, as you can clearly see just from like the Flash T-shirt and like, I like comic books and superheroes and stuff like that. Like, though I want to stress that I understand that stuff is not real.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but most of the time I'm usually like the only black person in like any given situation that I'm in.
Uh-huh.
So because of that, I oftentimes will feel like the odd man out, usually, most of the time. Even though like I share things in common with these same people, because I'm not like them, they view me differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then that sort of manifests itself in like passive aggressive like statements or, making comments about my intellect, you know, like, oh, I'm the dumb one in the group, you know, as far as, you know, when you're growing up, you know, you're in these social groups, and it seems like, and you don't even realize it's happening, but everybody represents like a different thing. Like you got the cool one, and you have like the smart one, and you have like the big one, and then you have the dumb one. And I was always relegated to like the dumb one, you know, because I see things a little differently than like other people in my age group would do. I think a lot of that is because like I had to grow up a little bit faster. Not as far as like going out and doing drugs or anything like that, but as far as like I had to mature a little faster because of the circumstances that I constantly find myself in, you know, with dealing with disease. Like when I was 11, I was diagnosed with something called Stevens-Johnson syndrome.
Yeah.
It was brought on from an allergic reaction, so I was in the hospital for 3 months.
When you were 11.
Yeah. And I still have scars on it, like to this day, like on my body from it.
Okay.
And it was horrible, you know, like the upper layer of my skin sort of peeled away, you know, bottom of my feet filled up with blood, you know, cuts on my lips bled.
Yeah,
And I was forced to sort of grow up because of trauma. And a lot of the people I was around never really had any trauma, you know, they're spending like $500 on baseball games, and like I always had to work, and in between working, I was like sick, and in between being sick, I had to go back to work, and it was just this cycle. So I was always I never really got the support of like people around me. Even my sister, you know, exhibited real toxic behavior towards me. We've always had a very contentious relationship. She's always had a lot of animosity towards me for a lot of things that you know, like, because you know how it is, like when your parents, you know, experience trauma, sometimes those parents can put that trauma on their kids.
Yeah.
And it was very much like that with my mother. My father put trauma on my mother, and then my mother put that trauma on my sister by punishments. And you know, my mom has now realized the error of her ways, and she's apologized for it, but a lot of that resentment that my sister had for her, she takes out on me because she feels like I got the life that she didn't get a chance to have.
Okay.
So
you had a lot of people who you've been around who were treating you like you weren't that smart. So like, and then there were like maybe microaggressions, race-based microaggressions.
Mm-hmm. At least that's my perspective. That's how I felt. You know, from my perspective, like I can't speak for them. I can't tell them what they felt or what they thought, but just that's how I felt. And I just sort of noticed that they would treat certain people a certain way, and then they would treat me a certain way. And it's just like I can't keep allowing myself to be in these kinds of environments, you know, or people that don't appreciate me or how I am.
Are there people now who you have healthier relationships with?
Not really. Nobody I'm really close to. Like, there is, that's not true. There is one person, and she is sort of like, her name is Lisa, and I met her when I was working somewhere, and we just stayed friends ever since. So she's sort of like the baseline of how I measure everybody else, sort of. So like if they don't really live up to like how she treats me, then I sort of have to reevaluate the dynamics of my relationship with people. Like, hey, is this person like a friend, or is this person an acquaintance? Is this person an acquaintance, or is this person an activity partner?
Oh,
you know,
okay.
And not really put too much, not get too invested emotionally in people that I meet. I find that I still do that. You know, I'm just human beings. You know, you gravitate towards people, but you know, that's what I try to do. I try to implement that as an exercise, sort of to protect myself emotionally.
So, how often do you meet with your therapist now?
I meet him once a week.
Okay, and are you okay with me checking in with him?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, He said that I'm glad you brought that up because he mentioned that if they needed like a consultation from him, if you guys need a consultation from him, he'd be happy to call and talk to you.
Awesome.
Like, he'd be happy
That's
to
what
talk to you.
I like to do. I don't want anything in writing. I just want to talk.
Yeah. He actually called the transplant coordinator
Okay.
for like I didn't ask him to do it. He just did it.
What's his name?
His name is Dr. Lawrence Tunis.
Okay. And do you have his number?
Yes, I do.
So is he a psychologist or a psychiatrist?
He's a therapist.
Okay. Lawrence Tunis.
Right.
So usually when people are therapists, what I do is I talk to them a little bit about kidney transplant, what we're looking for, and then the adjustment afterwards.
Okay.
And how, the first few months are really the hardest when you get used to the meds. And, first you feel really tired afterwards and in pain, and then you start feeling better and better. But it's also an emotional adjustment to not being sick anymore.
I completely understand because when somebody gets sick, they sort of go into a mentality of, well, this is just how it is. Oh, his phone number is His phone number is 415-847-3677.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just adjusting to maybe you can do martial arts 3 days a week, but you're still not up to doing 7 days a week. And telling people that you're still have to wear a mask for quite a while. And
even though I did get the full vaccination, but yeah, I know that I'm still like immunocompromised. I still understand.
I'm glad you got it before the transplant. That's good.
Yeah. But you know what? I also read up on that too. Of just aside from the physical stuff, like the emotional stuff is more like what I was looking into. Is more of like the emotional aspect. I understand that there's some people go through like a guilt phase too, of like having somebody give you like a kidney. If they're literally giving you a part of like I view it like they're giving you like a part of their soul, for you to live your life. That's how I sort of view it. It just, and another thing too is just you get a lot of, especially the people at the dialysis center. And look, I get it. You have some employees there that are just there for a paycheck. They don't really care. They don't really care about the patients. They're just there to get paid, and I get that. So from their perspective, it's just like, oh well, why don't you just take your mom's kidney? Who cares? It's like, no, I can't just take her kidney. Like I do care. It does matter because my mom's 62 years old, right? And she had to endure a lot in her life as far as like the abuse from my father, and she's not with him now. Like, she left him years ago. She filed a divorce. His final, like, that aspect of her life is gone. She's not hung up on him or anything like that. That's done. But, like, she didn't have the best childhood herself. Constantly being surrounded by predators. Her mom didn't really do her due diligence to raise her kids the best way that she could have. So that combined with, like, the abuse from my father. And now she's finally in a good place. She's finally in a good place. And
So she wants to donate to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't want her to do that. Because it's like she's finally happy now. And another thing I also looked up too is that like kidneys can fail. And that's another thing that like, when you're going on YouTube and you're looking for like videos about it, they're just like, yeah, kidney disease is great. And it's like, well, yeah, what they don't tell you is all the dark stuff. The kidney, multiple kidney transplants, the kidneys failing, it might not work. Mom's 62 years old. She has 2 perfectly working kidneys. I don't even know if she'd even be a match for me. She probably would be. But I don't want to know. Just because, like, if she is, then she'll want to do it. I understand the choice is still mine, but she'll still want to do it. And I can't have that because if something goes wrong, I'm not talking about the surgery, but if something goes wrong on my part, like if she gives me the kidney and then what if it doesn't work? I understand you can live on 1 kidney. I understand that. But like, I don't want her to have to do that. I don't want her to live on one kidney. She's doing fine. I don't want that to affect her health or possibly her health in the future. What if something happens to her and, you know, she's got one kidney? Or like, you know, what if something happens to her and now she has to go on dialysis? That's not a risk that I'm willing to take. Like, if it has to be me, then it has to be me, you know. But I just want her to just live as long as she can and be as healthy and as happy as she can.
Is she leaving it alone, or she keep asking?
She wants to get tested to see if she's a candidate. But I'm kind of just like, I don't really bring it up, so that way she doesn't like inquire about it.
Okay.
So I just sort of leave that alone. But I've explained to her before. It's not like a secret I'm hiding. But I've explained to her before, like, I don't want her to transplant the kidney. I just don't want, not her, you know. Yeah, but I mean, you know, like, I don't know. I've even debated whether or not I even wanted to. I debated whether or not I even wanted a living donor, but somebody mentioned this to me. You know, ironically enough, it was a social worker of like, well, you have to be happy too, you know, and I can't spend my whole life just being miserable.
I mean, there are people out there who want to give a kidney, not because anyone asked them. So, I mean, they want to do it because it makes them feel good and like they're helping the world.
Yeah, I've heard about that too. Like, it just, what do they call that? Altruism?
Yeah.
It's just like this
You
altruism.
see quite a few.
Yeah. But then I read the statistics on like the deceased donor list, and it's like that is significantly longer. Right. And I'm just like, I can't, like, I don't want to be, you know, 45 still on dialysis. Like, I don't want to wait 4 years because, you know, I'm in like Facebook groups, dialysis support Facebook groups, and they're just like, yeah, 4 years on dialysis. I'm like, 4 years? Like, I'll be like 41, and then I'm not going to be young anymore, and then they're going to be like, oh, well, he's in his 40s, who cares? We're not going to help him anymore.
People change. Your feelings and thoughts on the situation may change. I would just allow the process to evolve. You're doing what you need to do to get on the deceased donor list.
But now it's just, you know, like I've since then, it's like you said, you know, like since then I've given consideration to just like being on the living donor list just because the shorter wait time.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and it's like, I don't know, I guess a part of me, because it's like a part of me sort of, I don't want to say feels guilty, but a part of me kind of feels weird. It's like, oh, well, you won't take your mom's kidney, but you'll take somebody else's kidney. It's like, well, it's different, you know? Like, it's just...
Well, it is different, and if your mom's sick, then you're going to be on the hook for taking care of her, which it sounds like you'd be perfectly willing to do, yet you don't want her to put herself at risk.
Right.
On the other hand, she's a big girl, and who is smart, like you said, and independent, and should also be able to make her own decision.
Right. Yeah, and I've taken that into consideration too. Like, I understand that, but it's just like just looking at like what's happened to me, you know, over the years, and it's just I just don't want to, like, me and my family we're not lucky people, you know. We're just like, I think that our
If something could go wrong, it will.
Yeah. Like, we are the ones who suffer. Like, that's what we do. We're not the ones that win. We're the ones that lose more oftentimes than not. And I don't want to put her in any position or put her in any danger. You know, she was in enough danger with my father. 14 years she put up with abuse. So she's been in enough danger with that, you know, growing up. So if this is the only time that she has to be happy, then like I can't take it away from her. I don't want to, you know, and I'm sure she's not asking me to do that.
Well, this is a great thing to talk to your therapist about.
Mm-hmm. And I've talked to him about it before. Yeah, I've talked to him about it before.
Okay. I mean, I guess another way I would think about it is like, when it's time for the holidays, I don't know. For me, I always remember the gifts I've given to other people. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't remember the gifts I get. But what really touches me is the things I can give. And so, like, kind of allowing someone else to have that experience, you know, being willing to receive that gift is actually generous in a different way.
I've heard about that too.
All right, we need to tie things up. I mean, based on our meeting, I don't think there's any psychiatric reason that I've heard of today that you wouldn't be a good candidate. I will touch base with your therapist and just sort of trade information. I don't think you necessarily have to come back to see me unless something changes with your mental health dramatically.
I'd like to think that I'm a pretty mentally resilient person. You know, like if I was gonna fall apart, I would have fell apart like a long time ago.
Well, you haven't. You knew enough to reach out for help, and that's probably the biggest thing. Is someone who, if you can access resources when you need to.
Yeah, I try to be self-aware in relation to me, and not just like let it go or just be like, oh no, I'm fine.
Right.
So, no, I'm not fine. Like I'm really, really not fine. Like when I reached out to Dr. Tunis, he's the second therapist I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, he's the third therapist I've seen. And it's like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this alone. Like, I don't got it. Like, I don't got it. You know? I gotta talk to somebody. Because this is not working. Like, I gotta find something that works to just get me out of this. But, all of the therapy and the like work I've been doing, it's been helping me as far as like protecting myself emotionally and not the internal, negative speak like I used to do before. Like I don't view myself as like a disgusting human being like I did before. Like I put that stuff, like I'll make jokes about it every once in a while, but like that's just jokes. Like I don't really mean any of that stuff. But I put all that stuff behind me.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thank you for seeing me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Like I was very concerned when I called you guys. They put me. They told me it was going to be late July, early August.
For this visit?
Yeah, but not with you.
Oh.
It was with somebody else, a residency or something like that. Trainee, I believe, something like that. They said. But so I just called them back, and like I sort of expressed the seriousness of like how badly I needed this. So they got me in contact with this person, to that person, this person, that person, and which ultimately led me to you, talking to you.
Okay.
So I just kind of didn't take no for an answer. Like there's got to be something that you guys can do. There can't just be one guy I can talk to. There's got to be like other people there that I can speak with.
Okay. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you got in then.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna bring you back out.
Right.
I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Is there anything else I can do?
Not for me. If you had other appointments, you would check at the front desk. But if that's it for today, then you can just take off.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
If you listen to the whole evaluation, that's one of two things that I have done. So next is just the heart exam, and that'll be it. But she, as you've heard, she doesn't really have any reason to believe that I have any psychiatric issues that would disqualify me from being on the transplant list. So one down. Now it's time to move forward with the heart exam and get that done, and then theoretically I should be ready to go. But who knows? But we're all set. So until next time.